Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Buckinghamshire series. This used to be 4 separate districts and now it's all one. Let's see which one of its 169 parishes we've come to for today's episode. Hello folks, welcome to Buckinghamshire for the very first time. Now this, as you probably would have expected, should have been Dorney if you've been following me for a while, but I had a little trick up my sleeve. I was never going to Dorney on the mega trip. I was heading here instead, and this is a place that Nikki knows
very well.
very, very well, because
it's 30 years since I've been here, but I know it very well.
Because you used to work in this pub, the Cock and Rabbit. Does this bring back a few memories for you?
Just one or two.
Nikki's going to be taking the lead in this episode. Welcome to the Lee. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like, and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Welcome to Buckinghamshire, a county and a district all rolled into one. It wasn't always like that though. Buckinghamshire was made up of 5 districts until 2020, but the former districts of South Bucks, Wycombe, Aylesbury Vale and Chiltern have now been combined into one. Milton Keynes, though, has stayed the same. This is the Lee, which used to be in the Chiltern district. The Lee was formerly known as just Lee. It's located in the Chiltern Hills, about 2 miles northeast of Great Missenden and 3 miles southeast of Wendover. Within the parish is the hamlet of Lee Clump, a small group of houses that are separated from the main village. There's also Lee Common and another small hamlet called Swan Bottom. It's a complex one, but I promise it will all make sense. There are 2 pubs here. One of them is the Cock and Rabbit, which Nikki used to work in. I can guarantee you whatever I tell you about that pub, Nikki would add to 10 times over. There are 3 main religious buildings, but only one is still in use. There's a few other interesting landmarks too, like the Jubilee Well and the bust of an admiral. Many famous people used to live here, including John Craven and Geoffrey Palmer, to name but 2, and the Lee has been used quite a few times in TV shows, most notably in 2 episodes of the popular crime drama Midsummer Murders. Let's go for a walk and check it all out. Before we go for a walk, we first have to understand the Liberty family. Arthur Lazenby Liberty was born in nearby Chesham in 1843. In 1900 he bought the manor from John Plaistow and built a new manor house on the outskirts of the village. The old manor house became 3 attached properties, which remain so today. The Liberty family own the famous Liberty's department store located on Great Marlborough Street in the West End of London. Liberties are known around the world for their close connection to art and culture, and it's most famous for its bold and floral print fabrics. The vast mock Tudor store also sells men's, women's and children's fashion, beauty and homewares from a mix of high-end and emerging brands and labels. The store played an essential role in spreading and popularising the modern style. The Liberty family still live in the Lee, and they still own quite a lot of land here. At a house called Piper's on Potter Row is the figurehead of Admiral Richard Howe. It came from a ship called HMS Howe, which was later renamed Impregnable before being scrapped by the Royal Navy. The Liberties bought the ship in 1926 and used its timbers to refurbish the interior and frontage of their department store. The Admiral was originally sited outside their newly built manor house, but was relocated here in 1953 when the family moved into Piper's. Our main walk begins at the Cock and Rabbit. This was rebuilt and resited in 1907 by Arthur Liberty during his reconstruction of the village green. It replaced a much older pub that allegedly obscured the view from his manor house. Now surrounded by a garden and sun terrace, this pub has the appearance of a quintessential English country house and is currently undergoing refurbishment with new management. The previous owner owned the Cock and Rabbit for nearly 40 years.
Crest there, and the pub's undergoing major refurbishment, but the little crest in the window there has got a C and an R in the middle of it, and then it says the Lee underneath.
And you know who painted it?
I do.
Who was it then?
Where the double doors are, the window directly above was my bedroom, and then the one to this side of it was my bathroom, because I had my own sort of rooms at the top of the pub, and then that's the restaurant side at the back. There used to be a lot of hedging and plants and things here, which have obviously now been taken up.
So despite the fact it is undergoing some renovation, it does open at 4 o'clock apparently today. It's only an hour and a half away, so we might call in for a drink later, Nikki.
And why not? And meet the new owners and reminisce a little bit.
You might,
you know.
if I know you.
I haven't been here for probably nearly 30 years. And you know, when you sort of see these things and you think, my knees are actually wobbly, you know, because it's like coming back all this time. And I've got so many memories right there in just the one building.
Hopefully you've got some more memories around the village as well.
Oh yeah.
Right then, let's go and find something else to feast our eyes on.
Yeah, I remember her now. Of course, if you're a fan of TV drama, the Lee and that pub were featured on Midsummer Murders in 2 episodes. One in series 3 and one in series 18 certainly spring to mind, and it was known as the Rose and Chalice in those.
The parish church is dedicated to St John the Baptist. It's unusual in that it consists of 2 buildings, an old church built in the 12th century and a newer Victorian church. This is the latter, and we'll get to see the older one shortly. Both buildings sit within an oval-shaped churchyard, common in places of importance in the pre-Roman period. In the second half of the 19th century, the old church was in need of repair and was becoming too small for its growing congregation. To replace it, this red brick building was erected in 1867. In 1910, thanks to the generosity of the Liberty family, the new church was enlarged. Amongst the additions were a new vestry, a baptistry, and some new stained glass windows. The other main religious building in the Lee is a Methodist chapel at Lee Common, which we'll see later, although it is now closed. There was also once a strict Baptist chapel at Lee Clump, and mission halls at Swan Bottom and Potter Row. Okay, so the church here is open. In we go. Now, according to the lady wife here, you didn't come up here very often, so have you ever been in here?
I can't remember it. It's not familiar.
Okay. Well, let's have a little explore around it then, regardless of whether you've ever been in here or not. It's very light and airy in here.
It's just a little dark at the moment because of the time of day.
Yeah, don't know where the light switches are. Let's do what we normally do in churches anyway. We'll have a little look around. So we've got a nice big bit of stained glass at the end.
Yeah.
A couple of wall tablets. There's one here. Constantine Osborne Phipps, canon of the church apparently.
The carpet's green in this church.
Okay. Very unusual. You usually find red carpets.
Special significance.
No, I don't think so. Oh, it's like a laminate floor.
No, it's the party flooring, type of party flooring.
Okay. Yep, very nice indeed. Now, there are actually two churches here in this part of the Lee. There's an old church which is just behind this, so we're going to explore that next. The old church, as many locals refer to it now, was formerly called Lee Chapel, which was spelt L-E-Y. Lee literally means a wooded clearing. One of its most important features is a window depicting Oliver Cromwell and John Hampden as champions of liberty. That's quite apt really, given the family connections out here. The last service to be held in this church was on the 3rd of February 1869. 3 days later, the consecration service for the new church took place. Leaving the churches behind, we're back to the green. On here we find the Lee's War Memorial, which is of granite and takes the form of a Celtic wheel cross. It was erected in 1921 and was unveiled by Robert Wynne Carrington, the Lord Lieutenant of Buckinghamshire and Marquess of Lincolnshire. Facing the green is a large white house in which the TV personality John Craven, best known for presenting Newsround and Countryfile on the BBC, used to live.
Back when I was living there, we used to write a lot of letters home. We used to write letters home to my mum and my sister. This way I used to post them.
And you get the honour of putting the TVI card on the parish notice board here in the Lee. If you're new here, which I imagine people will be because this is the first one we've ever done in Buckinghamshire, this is what I do to mark off that I've been to a place. I leave a card on the parish notice board.
Or what I do to mark off where I've revisited a place.
So, as I told you in that last shot there, John Craven used to live in that house there, the manor house behind that wall there. And Nikki, he was a regular in the Cock and Rabbit, I believe.
Yeah, he was a lovely guy.
And who else famous lived out here?
Oh, there were one or two. I mean, the other one that strikes a chord is Geoffrey Palmer. He was just as witty and dry in person as he was on camera.
I can well believe it. I can well believe it. Okay, let's carry on up this road. We will walk past the cricket club next, I believe, and we'll head for Lee Common. This road, which is a pretty steep hill, links the Lee to Lee Common. It doesn't have a great deal of properties along it, but there's a farm or two. Manor Park is also along here. This is the base of the Lee's Cricket Club. The first recorded cricket match on this ground was on the 2nd of May 1875 when the Lee Common Amateur Cricket Club hosted a match against local rivals Prestwood. They would win by just 13 runs. The club's modern history dates from 1900, and the Liberty family began to play an active part in the club in that year. As the hill starts to flatten out, we come to the Lee Parish Hall, where there's more sporty stuff. The site on which this hall sits houses the scout hut and a tennis court, as well as the village shop. The shop used to be in Lee Common, and I'll show you where later. It's community owned, with shares being held by many residents of the village. It has a managerial team, but it's staffed mainly by volunteers. Okay, so Nikki's just had a little reminisce with the lady who runs the shop here in the Lee, and they were stood there for a good 10 minutes talking about all sorts of things. A proper trip down memory lane for you, Nikki. Oh yes, we picked up one of these, the Lee newsletter. You're going to have a read of that, aren't you?
Yep.
Could be some good stuff in there.
I'm chomping.
Oh yeah? Oh, I do apologise. Right, let's head on into Lee Common. So this is Lee Common, and this is its main street, Oxford Street. Lee Common is much bigger than the Lee, and it's where most of the parish's population live. Lee Common used to have a pub of its own, and it was called the Bugle. It was this building, and it was originally just a beer house. Part of it was used for a time as a general store. Over the road is Lee Common C of E School. It's an infant school only. It was founded in 1873 and has been adapted and altered over the years. Turning around now, we're heading south past a bus stop. There are 2 bus services through the Lee. These are the 177 to Amersham, which runs Tuesdays and Thursdays, and the 190 towards Chesham that runs on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays. Our next landmark on Oxford Street is the Methodist Chapel. This was built in 1839 as a primitive Methodist chapel. It's no longer in use. The last service was held here on the 22nd of August 2021. You know, just between me, you and the wall, I've been watching Nikki's body language as we've been walking around, and I can just tell that at every little twist and turn, this wife of mine is looking at every little cottage, every little, bit of road, for every little memory. It's pretty obvious. You can hear this, can't you?
What?
Oh, you can't?
I wasn't listening to you.
Oh, weren't you?
Nope.
Oh, right, you'll find out what I was saying in the video. Carrying on, we pass the allotments. For those that are new to the channel, finding these has become a running joke, but these have a story. We'll get to that later. Up next is the Jubilee Well. The well was originally dug to improve the public water supply in Lee Common. It was started in 1896 and finished in 1897, the year of Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee. It was commissioned by the Liberties and was designed and built by their craftsmen. The well house is hexagonal and has 5 oak panels and an oak gate beneath a tiled roof. It was made a Grade 2 listed building in 1986. This building here is where the village shop and post office used to be before it moved to the village hall. Nikki would often walk up here from the Cock and Rabbit. Next to it there's a holiday let. Not surprising, Buckinghamshire is a nice county to have a short break in. I hope this video is doing a good job of showing you that. I'll tell you something, Nikki, this village could do with some footpaths here and there, couldn't it?
Yeah, very narrow streets. Very. Yeah, you take your life into your hands in this place.
There's plenty of cars around, even though it's quite a quiet place.
It's school kick-out time though. It's 3
Well,
o'clock in the afternoon.
Well, I guess, I suppose so. Right, we're down here next as we make our way back to the Lee. We've got to go through a wood at some point, so that'll be fun. Next we head up Cherry Tree Lane and we're making our way to a wood. On the way we'll pass the back of the allotments again, as well as the playing field and a playground. The 5 acres of land on which these all stand was originally a gift made to Great Missenden Parish in 1855. In 1911 it was transferred to the Lee. At that time it was divided into 36 allotments which local residents could rent for the modern equivalent of just 15p a year. Now we're coming down a hill towards what I'm calling Lee Wood. It doesn't really have a name. It occupies a small tract of land that links Lee Common to Lee Green. There's a huge variety of woodland and pastoral scenery around the Lee. It's no wonder then that it's been described as the prettiest village amongst a host of pretty villages in the Chilterns. This particular wood doesn't really have any notable features, but Nikki did have something to say about it. So even this wood that we're about to walk through has a memory for my wife. And what is that memory?
Well, the chap who was a landlord at their pub, he used to get one of his ingredients from in this wood. I think it was this wood. He was quite secretive about it, but you used to see him walking down towards this wood. So, you put 2 and 2 together. He used to get wild garlic from in there to use in his dishes.
Awesome. How did it taste?
Bella.
Walking around the Lee is something that a lot of people like to do. The village has its very own walking group, which meets on the first Thursday of every month. The walks are always around the village, with the route and meeting location varying from month to month. Details are always published in the Lee newsletter. After leaving the wood behind, we're now coming back towards the green. This road, which is apparently unnamed, features some of the Lee's grandest properties. These are a mixture of brick-built houses and barn conversions, generally very private with gated access. The people who live in these enjoy views towards Pipers, easy access to the green and its amenities, and they're also close to the woodland, so that means they could go and pick their own garlic if they wanted. It's a dead-end road as well, which means there's no passing traffic apart from the odd rambler. I did find there was quite a bit of traffic elsewhere in the Lee, especially in Lee Common. Okay, so we're back at the Cock and Rabbit where we started. Now, we've got a few driving bits to do here, including Lee Clump and Swan Bottom and a few other odds and ends. And Nikki's going to be my sat-nav for that, because you know where you're going. Obviously, I don't. When we've done those, we'll come back to the Cock and Rabbit, because Nikki wants to go in and have a word with the new landlord, don't you?
Well, we'd like to go in and at least have a drink.
Okay.
That's a word with him.
Right, no problem. Right, let's get in the car and let's go. To finish this episode off, we're taking a drive from the Lee up to Swan Bottom, a small hamlet which is around half a mile away to the north. When we get there, we'll be seeing the Old Swan, another pub within the parish boundaries. The Lee used to have another pub called the Gate Inn, which was at Lee Gate. In a moment we'll go over a crossroads, and Lee Gate is located to the left as we look at it, while Swan Bottom is straight over. Lee Common will be to the right. The Gate Inn was created from two timber-framed cottages which dated from the 16th century originally. They were recased in brick in the 18th century to form the present building. As a pub, it's now closed, but it remains a Grade 2 listed building, and it will be familiar to regular watchers of Midsummer Murders. As for the Old Swan, well, it's got a history all of its own. It's the oldest of the pubs in the Lee. Also dating from the 16th century, it still retains all of the character of days gone by. In winter, it offers a cosy bar to while away the evenings, whilst in the summer its garden offers an oasis of tranquility. It's been said that the Old Swan is what an English country pub should be: quiet, pretty and well kept, with good beer, excellent food and a beautiful garden. Nikki would often frequent the Old Swan in her working days at the Cock and Rabbit, and found it to be an enjoyable alternative. I'm going to use the rest of this drive to fit in some other information which didn't really belong elsewhere. First of all, one of the biggest and most well-known events in the Lee was, and still is, the Lee Flower Show. It originated as a summer picnic for the children, parents and teachers of the various Sunday schools in the parish. The first summer picnic was held in 1893, with the earliest complete details available being from the 9th anniversary event in 1901. Since then, the flower show has blossomed, pun very much intended. Various other facets were added to it over the following century. For many years, the cricket club held a dance in a marquee. The first dance, organised by the flower show itself, took place in 1990. This was a fully catered dinner, but by the end of the decade, it had morphed into a garden party or country feast, with everyone bringing their own food, a format that's continued to the present day. I'll also use this opportunity to mention the Lee's French twin, Fromelles, which is famed for a military operation on the Western Front during the First World War. The attack was carried out by British and Australian troops and was subsidiary to the Battle of the Somme. The battle took place on the 19th and 20th of July 1916. In 2016, there were at least 3 visits by parties from the Lee to Fromelles to mark the centenary of the event. And there you have it. That has been the parish of the Lee, and it's been a trip down memory lane for Nikki.
It's been really, really good. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And, you know, I've been able to, you know, 30 years since I've been here, it's a long time. And my memory does play tricks on me, definitely does. But I've sort of seen and been reminded of some things today that I haven't visited in a long time. And it's been wonderful.
Good. Well, I'm hoping the inside of the Cock and Rabbit is something that you'll be able to remember in a few minutes' time when it opens.
Well, I know it's undergone some modifications inside, but I'm excited to see what it looks like now and having its new life breathed into it.
Yeah.
From what I understand from me leaving here, and the landlord didn't do anything really to it, didn't make any significant changes, and I know that this new chap who's come in has made some changes, so I'm excited to see what they are, because I mean really what he's done is that he's bought into a village pub and he's making it his own and he's building it.
Good. Excellent. Right, well, we'll go and check that out in a moment, but I will leave you with the news that this is a one-off. If you're new watching this and you haven't seen me before, I am going to obviously go through the rest of Buckinghamshire, but of course this is just like a one-off at the moment. We will be back at some point, but it's been good to see another new county and a place that Nikki knows very well, and I'm sure there are going to be plenty more around here. For now, this has been the Parish of the Lee, and I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot. I'm out.